Hello Shippensburg, and welcome to Spotlight on a Box. My name is John Miller. I'm the Executive Director here at the Shippensburg Historical Society. And before we get to our box, I just wanted to show these two portraits to you because this came in with the collection that's now in a box on Wednesday. These are portraits. They're oil on canvas. They were painted probably sometime before 1820. And this is David and Mary Nevin. David was a military man for a short period of time. He served as a first lieutenant during the War of 1812 at the Battle of Baltimore, or the Baltimore defenses. That was a battle that took place in September of 1814. Of course, he was first lieutenant of the company of troops that came out of Cumberland County here. He also attended the state constitutional convention of 1837, and there is documentation on some of the amendments to the state constitution that he either voted for or he was opposed of. So that was pretty cool when I found that information out online. He was also a merchant, and he was a very tall figure for the time. Now, the Nevin family, they pretty much arrived here in Shippensburg sometime in 1765/1766 after his father, who lived in New York, moved to this area. His father, Daniel, fought in the American Revolution. His brother, John, he really did not like the idea of slavery. So he was one of the first outspoken individuals in this area against owning slaves. Although Mary here, her family did own some of the slaves. But for the most part, great collection. These went under conservation in 1987. That's where they pretty much touched everything up as far as the paints are concerned. And then they took the canvas and they put them inside of more of a, maybe an early 20th century picture frame. But just absolutely a beautiful and incredible two pieces of history here that is now on display at the Shippensburg Historical Society. So let's go down and let's talk about the spotlight on the actual box. So here's the spotlight on the box. Like I said, the two portraits go with the components or the artifacts or the documents that are within this box here. And these were just accessioned yesterday. And let's go ahead and pull these out real quick. Because this was pretty awesome when we received these. Here we go. So here, along with those portraits, we have some of the children. And this is David Nevin here. He was born in 1782 and he passed away in 1844. He is buried here in Spring Hill Cemetery, just outside the town limits here. And like I said, I'm not sure how he got his title major. I have not found any references of him being any higher in rank than a first lieutenant. But he could have been an active member of the Cumberland County Militia after the War of 1812 was over. And then here we have his son, David W., or actually his grandson, David W. Nevin. And on the back of this, it says 1875. And then we're told possibly that this would have been his wife, and her name was Liliza Nevin. But we're finding out that these two here were probably never married to begin with. And I got the family tree that we constructed here. But this portrait here is also marked 1875 on the back. And here we also have some tintypes of her. And these are pretty cool because if you notice here, she does not have her hat on, but then we have her with her hat on, and as well as you can see is her signature right here on the covering for the tintype. So we kind of have the family tree from the family, and then after that we kind of also did some research and added in some of the blanks because of the fact that they were missing a generation or two. So that was really fun to do. So here we have the document for the appraisal of the two portraits upstairs. That was done in 1987, and it talks a little bit about the history of the conservation work that went into it. But they also had all kinds of really cool documentations that go with it. Here's one from 1854, 1856, but it's from the General Land Office, and it appears to be some kind of a contract. And so here's the actual contract itself, and then on the inside are the articles. And I'll try to pull that up. And it's not going to let me do that because of the fact that if you notice here, you have these holes punched into it, and you have this ribbon. So really, you're supposed to kind of go into it from this way here. I don't want to do that unless I had a little bit more sturdier area to work with. We have a contract from 1854 right here. And you can kind of see it's a copy of a deed, but it also lists out the terms on the inside. I mean, look at that. I mean, look at the handwriting. Look how neat that is. Here we have a bill of sale. And this is from 1848. You can see where it had the seal, and the seal's been busted open, or the document's been broken open. So dated March 28th, 1848. And this is in the wake of David's death. So they're still going over some of his estate, getting it squared away. Here's an 1857, it's a claim made by David Meeker, and it also talks a little bit about the David Nevin estate. And it's really cool because it has all the seals and stuff like that. I mean, look at that. Here we have a copy of David's actual will. This is just some information on one of their children, Joseph Nevin. Here we have a letter that was done in the Civil War. And this talks about one of the Nevin family members who fought in the Civil War. And this letter here was to verify that the person who wrote this actually saw the Nevin, one of the Nevin children being killed on the battlefield. And this was in 1862. Skip over the contents of this one, because that's just a letter there talking about how some of the things were donated prior in 1976. This letter here is awesome. And I love the fact that this talks about the politics of the time. It also talks about This individual, who was part of the Nevin family living in Easton, New Jersey at the time, he actually saw Abraham Lincoln give a speech for a run for his presidency when he was in that area. And he talks in here about how Lincoln was a little irritating to hear. And of course, the whole crowd was anti-Breckinridge. And Breckinridge was a gentleman who was running against Lincoln. And what's nice about this letter, it also states in there that a Major Samuel Sturgis from Shippensburg happened to be up there and was part of the guard duty. And you can kind of see where Major Sturgis's name is mentioned right here. Now, there is another letter, and the family is looking for this because of the fact that one of the family members was actually there at the Gettysburg Address. And according to the family, their relative was basically a wagon's length away from actually being able to touch Abraham Lincoln. So that was pretty cool. Now, here we have some information on Hugh Williamson, one of the signers of, I believe, the Declaration of Independence. I think it's for that. May have been for the Constitution as well. We have 1883 documents here. Again, this is another agreement. It still kind of talks about the David Nevin estate. Here we have some more letters here. I mean, just look at the penmanship on that. It's absolutely gorgeous. Here we have more copies of David Nevin's will. Just a really impressive collection of items that came to us on Wednesday. I believe this is another copy of his will. And then last but not least, another portrait of her. Well, I hope you had fun with this edition of Spotlight on the Box. And until next time, hey everybody, we'll see you later and stay tuned. We're hoping to be able to reopen, so we'll have those announcements coming up soon. Until then, see you.